What's up, YouTube? What's up, Facebook? Thank you guys for being here today. Getting ready to start my show called Jimmy Rants over on Instagram. So thanks for being here today. I like to come on here early for you guys, kind of jibber jabber with you for a few minutes before we start the show, and stick around after the show is over. When I sign off on Instagram, I always kind of hang out with you guys for a few minutes here on Facebook and here on YouTube. So thanks for being here. What's up, Christine? What's up, Mitzi? Good to see you guys here today. Getting ready to start another episode of Jimmy Rants. I got a bit of a controversial subject, but I think that's something I bring to the table. Is I don't mind coming to the table with controversial messages sometimes, just because we need to have conversations about things. Hello, Beth. Thank you for being here today. Hello, Sally. All you guys coming in. Hello. Oh, is that Phil Ski? Thanks for being here as well. Hello to my YouTubers. I see you guys coming in over here as well. Feel free to give a shout out if you want to. I'll call your name if you do that. Hello, Judy. Thank you for being here. So, I don't know if I announced it here yet, but the other day, hey, Shirley, thanks for being here. The other day, I went to the little emergency clinic on Sunday morning. My right foot ankle has been swollen for a couple weeks. And at first I thought maybe I injured it, maybe I bumped it on something and it got swollen. Maybe like a spider bite, because it looked like there was like a little sore there, and I can still see the sore on the ankle. So I finally bit the bullet and said, okay, something's going on. So I went to the little ER clinic, and they said that they're not sure what it is, but they suspect it could be one of two things, gout in the ankle or arthritis. And of course, they prescribed me some medication. I also had like a little thing here on my arm, so they gave me like a little cream to rub on that thing. Again, might have been a bite while I was mowing the grass or something, but I have yet to start taking the medication. I'm trying to get like a second opinion on things. They did put a cortisone shot in my keister, so after they did that, the pain and the swelling's still there, but the pain did go down a bit. So I am working on trying to figure out what exactly is going on and everything. So, but I thought I'd let you guys know what was going on. I am in just a tinge of pain and have been for the past 2.5 weeks with this thing, but I was trying to avoid going to any kind of medical center in the midst of this COVID-19 thing right now. I don't want to get anywhere near a hospital or nothing. So thankfully there's a little clinic around the corner, and there was nobody in there on Sunday morning. So I was literally the only patient in there. Had to wear a mask, all the things, but they ran they did an x-ray and they showed no break, and they ran a complete blood work, and they showed that my white blood count was fine. So I don't know what's going on, but just thought I'd let you guys know. And as I continue to try to figure it out, talk to some of my doctor friends, I'll let you know what's going on. But thank you all for being here today. I got a great show in store, talking about obesity, because it seems to still be so stigmatized in our culture that we need to have these conversations about why. And I got a couple of articles here, one from an obesity organization, another one from a journalism organization that's trying to teach journalists how to report on obesity without being offensive. So anyway, really fascinating topic. Let's see who else has come in here. Hello, Bonnie and Anne, Sally, Paula, Rosie, Kira, Mary, Nancy, and Laurie. Thank you all for being here. Anybody else come in over here that y'all want to say hi before I start the show? Nope, you're lurking. I love the people that come on and they just like never say a word. I see you on there. I know you're there, but you can talk to me. I won't bite, I promise. So as always, here on Facebook, feel free to share this on your page or on any group page that you're a part of. You can just hit that little share button and then share it everywhere. But we're going to get started with the show right now, and here we go. Why do we still have a stigma associated with obesity? We're going to talk about it here today and how we correct it. Click on that little button down in the corner to go watch this on IGTV. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content. You got to go follow me. I'm over on Instagram. I am at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage live in the content just like all these amazing people coming in right here. Thanks for being here today, you guys. We're also simulcasting over here on my Facebook page, so thank you guys for being here. And finally, we're also simulcasting on the YouTube live stream too. Thank you guys for being here. The whole Jimmy Rants family, we are here. Thanks for being here. JimmyRants.com is the website if you want to get all the details about the show. You can also watch replays of the videos there. We have it on IGTV here on Instagram. And then finally, we do put them up on YouTube as well. So go type in a keyword Jimmy Rants in the YouTube search and you will find the show. Okay, you guys, today's topic is one that I don't think we talk about nearly enough. In our culture, we know that approximately 2/3, maybe upwards of 75% of the population is either overweight or obese. And as such, we have a group of people that have made it their life's mission to point out people that are in that 75% of the population that's overweight or obese. And there's this stigma that is associated with having extra weight on the body, with being considered overweight, being obese. These are things that we've dealt with since I was a little kid. The stigma that comes with being fat. Let's just be honest. People call you fat, they call you gross, they call you all the things. And I've always wondered, okay, what is it about obesity that people find so incredibly repulsive? Now, I get it. There's a lot of stereotypes that are associated with it, and we're definitely going to address some of those here today. But a lot of it just has to do with our culture has put such a heavy emphasis on weight, and they've given such gravity to what you weigh and what it means about you as a person, your character, how smart you are, how healthy you are. And I can tell you from personal experience, as someone who is in the health world, as an influencer, and I have been for over 15 years, you should see some of the assumptions that people make about Jimmy Moore simply because I'm not an Adonis with my body. And I've always been fascinated by that because people will make these prejudgments about your health based solely on how you look. Now, let me be very clear up front. If you have extra weight on your body, it's there for a reason. And usually the reasons are to protect you from disease. And in fact, a lot of the research has shown that people who have weight on their body are actually a lot safer from disease once a chronic disease hits, once kind of a metabolic disturbance hits. If you have weight on the body, it's actually protective against that disease. It's those people, for example, who get type 2 diabetes that do not have obesity that are pretty much sitting ducks. Now, that's not to say it's a good thing to be overweight or obese, but the point is that weight is not on your body to be grotesque. That weight is there for a purpose and a reason. And a lot of times that purpose and reason is to protect you from inflammation. And literally, especially in the belly area, that fat that's in there is grabbing a lot of the toxins that would otherwise cause issues in your body. And so deep within those stored body fat, within that stored body fat, are things that your body's protecting you from. So that's why a lot of you guys have a whole lot of trouble releasing some of that body fat, especially in your midsection of your body, that you've had for years. I deal with this very thing, and I know it's all the bad choices I made in my 20s into my early 30s that led to that. And so reframing how we view obesity and what it means and removing this stigma, changing how people think about obesity is so key here. and it's something that I've tried to make the center of my work. And I love that I still have weight on the body because I come at this from a personal perspective. Can you imagine if somebody skinny says, "Oh yes, if all you fat people would just get your act together and just do this, this, and this, you could look just like me." And yeah, shut up. Um, we've seen those people out there pretending like they have all the answers and they've never dealt with a weight issue in their life. I feel like I have credibility in talking about this because I do still have weight on the body. I do, though, at the same time, have great health and good health markers and things that show that despite the weight, there's good things happening on the inside because I've taken control of those things. Now, not everybody that has obesity is taking control of their health, and usually the first sign that you're having health issues actually pops up as an obesity issue, and then the other things follow unless you change things in your diet and your lifestyle. So what I wanted to bring to you here today, and if you're just joining us, we're talking about obesity and the stigma that comes with it. I'm asking the question, why do we still have this? Why do we have a stigma over obesity? And then what do we do to change it? So I've got this article that I thought was really good from this organization called Obesity Action, and their website, obesityaction.org, and it's a brochure about understanding obesity stigma, and it goes across all kinds of sectors of our society. I also have another group of pages that were printed out for people that are in journalism and how they're supposed to report on obesity so as to more accurately reflect what's going on. That's really good information we'll get to here in a minute. But let's get to this article first. The Obesity Action Center would like to thank the Rudd Center for Food Policy and Obesity for assisting in making this brochure. So they talk about the problem with obesity, how it's a widespread problem now, but there's a lot of bias, stigma, and discrimination still going on because of weight. These are frequent experiences that many people with obesity have to deal with, some of which, the scrutiny, you guys, over obesity has serious consequences for social well-being and overall health. This is the ironic thing. The people that poo-poo on those who still have obesity, the people who call out those people, well, you need to do something about that. They don't realize that it's that pressure that people put them under to try to lose weight, to try to fit within the mold of what society believes is good. They don't realize that's causing more problems in their health. Like, it's ironic, right? They're trying to tell people, hey, you need to do something about your weight for the sake of your health. And yet in making these comments, you make people feel bad about themselves. You make them more depressed, which for a lot of people, that mental health stuff, and we're seeing it now with COVID-19, drives them to eat more carbs, drives them to eat more junk food. So as helpful as you think you're being, pointing out the obvious, you're actually making matters worse. All right, so weight stigma can play a role in everyday life, including your work, school, healthcare settings. It remains the last form of socially acceptable prejudice in American society. Think about how outraged people get, and rightfully so, when there is a prejudice about race. Everybody's up in arms. We had several examples of that recently in the news. Everybody gets up in arms about that we prejudge people based on the color of their skin, their ethnicity. But we don't ever have trouble in our culture prejudicing someone because of their weight. We just automatically assume some things about them based solely on the weight on their body. Can I tell you how many people have just assumed I'm a stupid man because I still have weight on the body? And anybody that watches Jimmy Rants, that reads my books, that listens to my podcast, do I sound stupid? Well, maybe I do because of the southern accent. That's the, see, I'm both fat and I talk funny. But yeah, there's people that just make those assumptions, right? And so the stigma is real. So one of the goals of the Obesity Action Coalition is to try to eliminate this negative stigma that's associated with obesity. And to do this, we must be able to define and recognize this stigma when we see it in every aspect of life. Once we identify the nature and extent of this problem, we can increase education and awareness about how damaging it is and the lasting effects of the stigma. Again, I don't think most people think through the ramifications of having this prejudice against fat people. They don't. And like I said, I get it pretty much on a daily basis. I get some kind of a negative comment in an email, a comment on one of my social media posts, YouTube video. It's everywhere. What's a fat person telling me how to be healthy for? What is an ogre of an obese man have to say to me that's going to help me lose weight? I get it all, you guys. I've literally seen it all. And of course, at this point in my career, I've been doing this 15 plus years. I realize it's not personal against me. This is just society being, the dregs of society being what they're going to be. And there's going to always be the judgy. In fact, I had a guy on Instagram, and I posted this on my story yesterday, who said something about, well, you must not be eating keto anymore because it's obvious you're not a good representation of it. And I'm going, okay, interesting comment. Why would you assume I'm not eating keto? Is it because I have extra weight on the body? Does keto just magically reduce weight down to nothingness when you eat it? And then I threw up kind of a little poll question for people to answer of what are the other factors involved in your weight besides like your diet? And of course, people brought up hormones and other chronic health issues, stress, sleep, you name it. One guy said poop backed up. That would do it as well. So you have all these things that contribute to the obesity issue. And yet a lot of times we want to bring it down to, well, you're just eating too much. You're not exercising enough. And it becomes this simplistic answer. And anybody that's dealt with this issue realize it is not a simple one at all. So let's take a look at this brochure and the various areas that they say we need to address this obesity stigma. So let's first talk about the causes of obesity. So I was just kind of touching on that. Perceptions about this may be perpetuating the negative stigma. So the perceptions about the causes of obesity may be contributing to weight stigma and biases. There are assumptions that people make that obesity can be prevented if you just had more willpower, more self-control. That individual non-compliance explains that you are a failure in your life, in weight loss, and that obesity is caused by your emotional problems you have not dealt with. And all of these are examples of attitudes that contribute to the negative bias. There are some people that they question your character when you have extra weight on your body. And I can tell you, I've been in jobs before I started working for myself about 14 years ago. I've been in jobs where I know I was turned down for promotion simply because of my weight. I was turned down for opportunities to advance, opportunities to have raises, because there was a prejudgment of me that, well, they can't get this area of their life under control, therefore no area of their life is in order. Do you guys had to deal with that? And it's real, you guys. And I know people, every area of their life, they are brilliant at it, except for their weight. And they can't manage their weight. And things are happening with their weight. And yet, every area of their life, they are like spectacularly successful. But because of this one area, and because of the discrimination that still exists about fat people, they get turned down again and again and again, even though they'd be highly, highly qualified. This is real. Research suggests that beliefs about the causality and stability of obesity are important factors that contribute to the negative attitude. So, for example, studies have shown that individuals affected by obesity are more likely to be stigmatized if their overweight condition is perceived to be caused by controllable factors compared to the uncontrollable. In other words, overeating, which means basically eating too many calories, versus just having a thyroid condition. So if you tell someone, well, I have issues with my weight because my thyroid's messed up. Oh, yeah, oh, okay, that's better. Oh, you don't have a thyroid issue? Are you overeating calories? Maybe you should back off on the calories, fatty. Um, and people will have that judgment because of it. And if obesity is perceived to be a condition of personal choice versus a health condition, if you don't have a health problem, it's obvious you're a glutton and you're just stuffing your mouth needlessly. Yet, how many people, even who eat kind of a low carb keto diet, and you've done it very well, and you've seen all kinds of massive improvements in your health markers, and yet that stubborn belly just won't budge? What do we say to those people? Are they eating too much? Are they eating the wrong kinds of foods? Are they just undisciplined, lazy? Am I hitting some hard points here today? Are you feeling what I'm dropping here? So let's take a look at where this bias exists. And we'll start in the workplace. I just mentioned that I know I've been turned down for a whole lot of promotions and raises over the years in jobs. Before I got an employer that I actually liked, me, I had to deal with a lot of bosses that I know judged me up and down, and it's true. So let's take a look at that. There is clear evidence of weight stigma and bias in multiple aspects of daily life. For those affected by obesity, negative perceptions of people affected by obesity exist in the employment setting, where employees affected by obesity are viewed as less competent, lazy, and lacking in self-discipline by their coworkers and employees or employers. These attitudes can have a negative impact on your wages, promotions, and decisions about employment status for employees affected by obesity. I've seen it. I even remember in one office setting that I was in, they came around with the health insurance, which was a part of the package that you got as an employee. And I guess the provider of the health insurance said, well, if you weigh over this amount, your premiums are going to be a whole lot higher than the premiums for the people that weigh below this amount. And I kept thinking, okay, what about the people who weigh below that amount and yet they have bad metabolic health? They're insulin resistant, they're the whole TOFI, thin outside, fat inside, where they have issues metabolically on the inside that aren't manifesting as obesity on the outside, and vice versa. What about the people who have obesity on the outside, but metabolically on the inside are completely healthy? Why is the health insurance, being discriminated along the lines of your weight? Why don't people ever ask this question? Because of the bias that's out there. Experimental studies also show that applicants affected by obesity are less likely to be hired versus their thinner counterparts, despite having the exact same qualifications to do the job. There's also increasing legal cases emerging where employees affected by obesity have been fired or suspended simply because of their weight, despite demonstrating that they can do a good job and perform the job, even though their body weight was totally unrelated to their job responsibilities. Think about an office worker sitting and typing all day. Does their weight matter? Not really, not for that kind of a job. It's not a physically demanding job. So if they use your weight, I suppose they could say if you interact with customers that you're not representing the company. I'm stretching, trying to see how they could fire you. It sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen if you fire someone solely based on their weight. That's definitely under the discrimination laws. So bias in employment settings has been identified in hiring preferences, promotions, wage inequity, and termination of employment. So job applicants affected by obesity are rated as having, listen to these qualities, a poor self-discipline, low supervisory potential. In other words, they won't make you a manager. Now, thankfully, when I was younger and lived in Virginia Beach, I worked in a Christian bookstore. I got promoted to manager in this chain of bookstores in Virginia Beach. and was manager for a while. And then I was, when I came here to Spartanburg, I worked as a marketing manager for a while. So it's not totally across the board a truism, but for a lot of people it is. They assume you have poor personal hygiene. This one always gets me. Why do they think fat people stink? Like, where did that come from? Like, I bathe every single day, and like I take great pride in staying clean and smelling good and da da da. But there's this notion that if you're fat, you stink, and I'm going, okay, no, I'm still good, I promise. Less ambition and productivity. Oh, no, 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 no. When I was working in a regular job, my ambition was very high. I knew I had skills and talents that could be used if the employer would simply see them. And in hindsight, I'm glad I never did have those seen, my talents and my productivity and my work ethic. I'm glad they never saw that potential, because now I work for myself and love what I get to do. But there is this assumption you don't have those things. Higher likelihood of being hired for a job requiring little face-to-face contact. Again, they don't want a fatty being in front of customers. And it's true, you guys. It's true. As far as promotions go, lower promotion prospects compared to non-overweight counterparts, harder time being recommended by managers for promotion, and less chance to get hired in high-level positions. All true. How about your wages? Women affected by obesity earn as much as 12% less than females who don't have obesity. If I was a woman who had extra weight on the body, I would be so ticked off by this statistic. 12% less simply because you have extra weight on the body, and yet intellectually and skill-wise, you might be able to run circles around that thinner counterpart. And what if you're metabolically healthy because you eat keto and this thin counterpart makes 12% more than you do, is a mess, has to take more sick days, has to use up the health insurance of the employer, whereas you never go see the doctor? How is that individual worthy of higher pay than you? It's stigma. Women affected by obesity are more likely to be in the lowest paying jobs than thinner women. And men who are affected by obesity are underrepresented and paid less than men not affected in managerial and other professional positions. And again, I was passed over a few times before I finally got that managerial position at that Christian bookstore. As far as termination goes, fired due to prejudiced employers and arbitrary weight standards. Fired despite having good, excellent employment records, such as teachers, pilots, office managers, state troopers, and city laborers. So that's in the job, you guys. And if you joined us late, yes, somehow, some way in 2020, we still have a stigma related to obesity in our culture. It is the last socially accepted form of discrimination that we deal with, prejudice in our society. And it's high time we figure out why it still exists and how do we change it. So I'm going over from this Obesity Action Coalition, this list of ways that people are discriminated against and how we can fix it. So that was employment. Let's move to education. So when it comes to schooling, multiple forms occur in these settings. Students affected by obesity face numerous obstacles, ranging from harassment and rejection from their peers at school to biased attitudes from their teacher, lower college acceptances, and wrongful dismissals from college. Let me tell you a quick story from high school. I was in a math class in 9th or 10th grade, I can't remember, but it was in Pensacola, Florida. I was sitting in a math class, and I was one of the better students in the class, and yet the teacher had obviously a bias against me and my weight, because he would make fun of me in front of everybody in the class. And Mr. Gurley, G-U-R-L-E-Y, which was an ironic last name because I think he was kind of girly. It is what it is. But he would always relentlessly come after me because of my weight. I would wear t-shirts that maybe were tight-fitting, and he just poured it on all the time. And there was one time that he had this guy next to me sing a song to me, singing the Mickey Mouse song, and he called it Mickey Jimmy. M-C-K-E-Y-J-I-M-M-Y, Mickey Jimmy. And so he would sing this, and the teacher would allow him to sing it at me because I had the big ears and okay. And one day he sang the song, and I threw out a retort to Mickey Jimmy, and this guy, his name was like Robert Rupp, so I called him Donald Rupp, like Donald Duck. And then he had this raw chicken ready to throw at me, and he threw it right at me and just landed right here. I was wearing a brand new shirt from the high school. It had the little paw print. We were the Tigers, and it landed right there, and all that gunk just like spewed all over me. Again, the teacher allowed that to happen because he did not like that I was fat. Okay, I'm gonna let you get over the shock of that story because that really happened. And I had to walk around the rest of the day with that stuff on my shirt, and it was disgusting. But the point is, within the education setting, these things, this discrimination does happen. The severity of this problem is highlighted by research showing that stigma towards students affected obesity, and it begins very early in life. For example, negative attitudes have been reported among preschool children ages 3 to 5 who associated peers affected by obesity as being mean, stupid, ugly, and having very few friends. So bias in education is expressed through extensive peer victimization at school, like I just described what I went through, negative attitudes by teachers, administrators, and academic institutions. So, how do we see the bias from your peers? Negative attitudes during preschool, children affected by obesity teased by kids and chosen less as playmates. I hated PE with a passion when I was a kid. I mean, hated it. I was the fat kid, so you know what that means if you've been the fat kid. You were picked. That's right, you were never picked. You were defaulted to be the last person to be on the team. I remember we used to play kickball, and I always got picked last, and I always made it my mission to kick the crap out of that ball. And usually I would do pretty well, but the perception was because I was fat, I couldn't run fast, and so therefore we don't want Jimmy on our team. And yet I would always do quite well kicking the ball high and far and get on base. But the perception was that I wasn't very good. Stigmatization continues through high school and into college, where students affected by obesity are viewed as self-indulgent, lazy, and they're not allowed in social activities. In college, I didn't care what people thought. College, I was finding myself as a man after my childhood abuse, and so I didn't really care what people thought about me. I was just being me. And so, how about peer victimization? At least 30% of girls with excess weight, 24% of boys with excess weight report being teased by peers at school. This happened to me in middle school. I had a group of boys when I was in the 6th grade out on the playground again, and we had different cones set up for various purposes with the sports. And before a teacher got out there, there was a bunch of kids. Well, there was some boys that were doing some lewd sexual type of acts on these cones. And one of them said, "Jimmy, come here and do that too, or I'm going to beat you up." And so there was that kind of tease. And I think it was only because of my weight. I wasn't tall then. I was a little munchkin. They would do that today because I would. So. Adolescents at their heaviest weight are most likely to be teased because of their weight. I sure was. Overall, as many as 63% of girls and 58% of boys report peer victimization, and having excess weight predicts future peer victimization. So if they know you can get beat up on because of your weight, guess what? It's going to happen again. And if you are a parent of a kid with extra weight on the body, you've got to know about these things. I mean, maybe you have an intuition about it and you know things are going on, but maybe they won't always talk about it. Be sure you bring it up with them. Hey, is everything going okay? I realize it's hard sometimes, da-da-da. You know, have that conversation with your kid. How about the educators? Teachers report that students affected by obesity are untidy. Again, what's with the dirty thing? When you're fat, what is it about being fat that makes you dirty? I guess they think you sweat more. Is that the stigma? I'm not getting that one. Much more emotional. Fat people are emotional because we're constantly getting hate thrown at us. What do you expect us to do when people keep making all these remarks to us? Oh, thank you. Oh, yes. Oh, I love being criticized. I love being hated on. What do you think's going to happen? Of course they're going to be more emotional. And we're kind of told to shut up and be quiet about it. Unless you hold it in, of course you're going to manifest that as emotion. Less likely to succeed. Oh, screw that. I was an honor roll student. I always excelled academically in school, even when I was at my heaviest. I was pretty smart. And then more likely to have family problems, and that's probably true too. Obesity sometimes is a product of difficulties at home, but not always. Not everyone who has difficulties at home has obesity. Some are thin and they still have problems at home, so that's not across the board. All right, how about educational institutions? Children with excess weight are less likely to be accepted to college despite equivalent application rates and academic achievement. I don't remember when I was filling out my college admissions that I had to put down my weight as one of the parameters, so I'm not sure how that one comes into play. Students affected by obesity are sometimes dismissed from college because of their weight. And again, I don't know how that would come into play unless you play for a sport that requires your weight to be, I don't know how they would get away with that. All right, so that's in school. How about in the healthcare system? All right, this is gonna hit home for a lot of you guys. You guys have so many comments coming in. I'm not gonna possibly be able to get to all of them at the end. We'll stick around here on Facebook and YouTube at the very end to let you get it all out. But healthcare, get ready for this one. Weight stigma exists in the healthcare setting. Negative attitudes about individuals with excess weight have been reported by physicians, nurses, dietitians, psychologists, and medical students. Research shows that even healthcare professionals who specialize in the treatment of obesity have negative attitudes. Yeah, you think? Yeah, you probably should try to do something about that weight problem. You know, your diabetes is way out of control because you can't control your weight. And if you just controlled your weight, your diabetes would come under control and everything. Yeah, bite me. But again, it's because I suppose in that case, a lot of diabetes is associated with and correlates with having extra weight on the body. But it's not always axiomatic that extra weight means that's the reason you have obesity or have type 2 diabetes. Yeah. Bias may have a negative impact on the quality of the health care that you get. Some studies indicate that individuals are reluctant to go seek medical care and may be more likely to delay an important preventative healthcare service and cancel medical appointments because of the stigma. Doctors don't realize you're driving your customer, your patient, away with the kind of bedside manners that are less than desirable. How about you show a little love and compassion for people dealing with this? Now, I get it. Doctors are not trained very well in nutrition. They're not trained very well in like lifestyle things. So they can't possibly give you good advice about how to actually deal with your obesity other than you should eat less, exercise more, cut your fat, eat healthy whole grains. All the nonsense that we hear from the powers that be on high with the dietary guidelines. Same with dietitians. They're not giving you good advice. Weight bias has been reported as one reason for all the negative experiences that people have at their doctor's office. Research shows that 46% of women affected by obesity reported that small gowns, narrow exam tables, and inappropriately sized medical equipment are all barriers to getting the health care that they need. In addition, 35% report embarrassment about being weighed as a barrier to care. Do you guys like it when the first thing you do when the nurse takes you back to go see your doctor, let's go on the scale? Yeah, do we have to? Can I like empty out my pockets of my keys and my wallet and my everything because I don't want to see that number? Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I get why. I suppose they want to kind of track it over time to see what your weight is doing. But yeah, that's always a traumatizing experience for people that have more weight on their body. All right, so let's look specifically at physicians. How are they biased towards weight? Self-reported studies show physicians often view you, the individual that has obesity, as the following. Non-compliant. They assume if you're fat, they failed you as a doctor because you didn't do anything they told you to do. How many of us have actually done everything our doctor has told us to do? Cut your calories, cut your fat, eat more healthy whole grains, exercise, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We've done it to the letter of the law. And yet, when you come in and you have obesity, the assumption is you ain't done a damn thing and you don't care. Can you report that? I think we've all had that experience. Dishonest. Are you sure you're not sneaking in donuts? You know, that belly doesn't lie. You must have that belly because you're eating donuts. Doc, I haven't had any donuts in like years. Oh, you have to be eating something because that belly doesn't just show up like that. What's going on? Why are you gaining weight? I'm actually eating, you know, my ketogenic diet. I'm dealing with a lot of stress at work, but my ketogenic diet, and it's really helped improve my health marker. Yeah. Your health markers are great, but your weight's still bad. You must be eating donuts. And so there's this assumption, because the weight's there, that you're being dishonest about what you're actually eating. Never mind, you gave them the clue when you said you had more stress at work, and that might be the instigator in the weight gain. Lazy. They think you're lazy. And again, it's kind of like the fat people smell. Why do we have this notion that fat people are lazy? Do we just all like on the couch or something? I mean, what are we talking about? Why is that stigma there, that you're lazy? You lack self-control. You need more discipline and willpower, and you can find success. You're weak-willed, unintelligent. Yeah, bite me. When I went to see a doctor the other day about my right ankle is swollen right now. And so I went to see a doctor about it at the little ER clinic. And yeah, they started like talking all this medical jargon. And of course, I know a lot of the medical jargon because I've talked to a lot of doctors on my podcast. And so when he started saying, yeah, we ran a CBC for the WBC. And, oh, okay, so you ran a complete blood count to get my white blood cell count. And he's like, oh, you knew that? I was like, yeah. But the assumption was unintelligent and unsuccessful. Yeah, these are all stigmas that just don't hold any water. Physicians themselves are the common source of the stigma. They did a study that surveyed over 2,400 adult women about their experience with weight bias. 69% of them said physicians shamed them about their weight. 52% reported they've been stigmatized by a doctor on many occasions. That's over half of women that have weight on their body, extra weight on their body, basically being fat shamed by their doctor. That's disgusting. Seriously. Doctors were the second most frequent source of bias reported out of a list of more than 20 possible sources. Let's take a look at nurses. Self-reported studies show that nurses see individuals with obesity as non-compliant, overindulgent, lazy, and unsuccessful. 31% would prefer not to care for individuals with obesity. 1/3 of nurses don't want to mess with an obese patient, really? 24% agreed that individuals affected by obesity repulse them. Oh my gosh. 1 in 4 nurses think you are repulsive if you have obesity. 12% would prefer not to even touch an individual affected by obesity. What do we have, plague? Wow. Is this shocking? Like this is amazing statistics. Okay, let's get to another area of healthcare, psychologists. How does a psychologist view you as a fat person? In studies comparing beliefs about individuals affected by obesity versus average weight individuals, psychologists think of you in the following attributes. You have much more pathology going on. We need to really get deep into the pathology of why exactly you can't get this weight thing under control. You have more psychological issues in your life. How was your childhood? How are your relationships with your friends, your spouse, your children? Obviously, you're having issues, and maybe you are, but it's insulting to ask it that way. More negative attributes. Oh, you're just so pessimistic about the world. Oh, you're just a Debbie Downer. Just, brighten up. And then finally, worse prognosis and treatment. Oh, this is the worst case of psychosis I've ever seen in my life. Therefore, that's why they're... Guys, it's real. And I hope this is hitting home today. Just how much this weight stigma is not really gone away. Like, we keep hoping it goes away, but if you just hope that it goes away, it's never going to go away until we shine a bright light on it, which is what we're doing here today on Jimmy Rants. How about the quality of care that you receive when you go see a doctor? Individuals affected by obesity are more likely to have these challenges, fewer preventative health services and exams because of all the things we talked about. You don't want to be subjected to all that weight stigma. I can tell you, I used to hate going to see my doctor because I didn't want to hear what he had to say about cutting calories yet again, cutting down the portions yet again, exercising yet again. I didn't care about all the failed advice he was giving me. Less access to cancer screenings and mammograms, more frequent cancellation or delay of appointments, and less time with the physician, less intervention, and less discussion with the physician. The physician's going to assume because you have weight on your body that you don't have any interest in your health. And yet, how many people go keto, improve a lot of their health markers, still have weight on the body, and you have legit questions about some of the health things, and yet you don't get the time. You don't get heard. They assume you just don't care. It's true, guys. So what are the consequences of all this weight bias we've been talking about here today? Taken together, the consequences of being denied jobs, rejected by your peers, treated inappropriately by healthcare professionals because of your weight can have a serious and negative impact on your quality of life. Individuals affected by obesity suffer terribly from this, both from direct discrimination and from more subtle forms of bias that are frequently encountered. So, this weight bias, listen to this, this weight bias can lead to psychological, social, and physical health consequences. The irony of having this bias against someone because they have obesity is you give them psychological issues to have to deal with this bias. Those psychological issues manifest in their body biochemically in impacting their hormones. You raise their cortisol levels, raise blood sugar levels, increase insulin levels. What does that do? That's right, it leads to more weight gain. It leads to more weight resistance, not being able to actually do something about the very thing that you're criticizing them and biasing against them about. Ironic, right? Very ironic. And yet it happens every single day. One of the worst things you can be in America right now is a fat person. Try being a fat person, a bigger person, person with extra weight on the body in the health industry, in the health promotion of information. I deal with this pretty much on the daily. And the reality is you just have to learn to tune it out. Because if I listened like intently to every little thing that's said about me online, I would have been gone a long time ago. There would be no Jimmy Rants. There would be no books. There would be no podcasts. There would be none of those things. Is that what they want? Like, is there no redeeming value that comes out of someone who happens to look that way? Do you not get anything out of it? Obviously, you guys are watching me right now. You're getting something out of this, or you wouldn't be watching unless you just are a sadist and want to watch a fat guy tell you about health, right? So let's take a look at this. Psychological outcomes can include depression, anxiety, a low self-esteem, and poor body image. Social effects can include social rejection by your peers, poor quality of your relationships, potential negative impact on academics, physical health outcomes, an unhealthy weight control practice, meaning you do things extreme, trying to lose the weight, binge eating. You get so under so much stress from all the stigma that you just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. Okay, well, people think I'm fat. I might as well eat to feel better. And people do that. Avoidance of any kind of physical activity. So what can we do to eradicate this weight bias? And sorry it's going so long, but this is such good stuff, you guys. Given how acceptable this weight stigma is in society, transforming attitudes and enacting laws that prohibit discrimination based on your weight are needed in order to eliminate this problem and stigma toward individuals affected by obesity. This requires enormous effort. There are other important steps we can take as individuals and healthcare providers to improve daily functioning and well-being of those affected by obesity. So, individuals as advocates, people, maybe you, who are struggling with weight stigma can begin to approach this problem by becoming an advocate for yourself. This includes identifying situations in which you've been stigmatized because of your weight and then deciding how you're going to handle the situation so that it becomes a positive emotional health effect and to help prevent additional stigma from occurring. So here are some strategies for dealing with it as an individual. Educate others about the stigma, which is what I'm doing here today on Jimmy Rants. Challenge people with the negative attitudes. Obtain social support from others who are struggling as well. I get a lot of emails, you guys, and direct messages from people that say, I am so glad you don't let all that negative stuff about you said online stop you from speaking out, because we feel like you're one of us. We feel like you speak directly to the situation I'm in. And that's why I don't go away, guys. That's why you won't see me go away. Till the good Lord says enough is enough and takes me home, I'm going to stick around no matter what I look like, no matter what my weight is, because I feel like people need that encouragement now more than ever. Instead of avoiding enjoyable activities because of the negative feelings about your weight, set goals to ease these restrictions, participate more in these experiences. Rather than feeling inferior, practice self-talk that emphasize self-acceptance and positive self-esteem. I also love the whole self-love movement. Be vocal about individual needs and positively assert these to all the individuals involved, requesting larger sized gowns if a healthcare provider does not provide one. Communicate to the perpetrator of bias that their comments are inappropriate and hurtful. Sometimes people don't realize they have this bias, and that seems so preposterous. Don't make fun of someone who's fat. And yet it's kind of socially acceptable, so people do it. And then in the social media aspect, one person says something, then it has this echo chamber effect where more people, and more people, it becomes this pile-on thing. I've seen it way, way, way too many times. Nobody deserves having unkind remarks regardless of their weight, so let them know that. And then talk to a therapist to help identify effective ways to cope with the stigma, and then replace self-defeating thoughts or self-blame with healthier ways of coping. So there's a lot of strategies you can use as an individual to deal with this. How about healthcare professionals? And again, this Obesity Action Coalition, they're trying to educate healthcare professionals specifically about how you deal with all kinds of things, and specifically with this weight bias. Healthcare can easily become a negative and shaming experience for people with obesity because of the weight stigma. Therefore, healthcare professionals have an extremely important role to play in this. Encouraging individuals to share their experience of stigma, help them feel less isolated in these experiences, is a great first step. Clinicians can also help people identify ways to effectively cope with the stigma, such as using positive talk about their weight, obtaining social support from others in activities that they may have restricted due to feeling shameful about their weight. These tools can help reduce the tendency of individuals affected by obesity to internalize those stereotypes and then blame themselves, both of which will negatively impact your emotional well-being. Healthcare professionals can also address the issue of weight bias within themselves, their medical staff, and their colleagues. We always see these these efforts to avoid like racial discrimination in the workplace. Why don't we have the same kind of program except with the weight discrimination? Makes sense, right? Especially in the healthcare industry. In order to be effective and empathetic with individuals with obesity, this requires honest self-examination of attitudes and weight bias. Education can help increase this among health professionals about the pervasiveness and consequences of this bias. Can also encourage providers to adopt a more accurate and empathetic understanding of their patients. Finally, healthcare professionals can do a great service to their patients by improving the physical and social environment of their healthcare settings. This means having bathrooms that can be easy to get in and out of, sturdy armless chairs and weight rooms, offices with larger exam tables, gowns, and blood pressure cuffs that are all weight friendly, blah, 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 blah. There's a little bit of pushback people have about that, and we see the same thing about bigger seats on airplanes. People say, well, why do we have to accommodate people for their obesity when they just need to deal with their obesity? Okay, fair point, but I wonder if you can give people proper education while they're still dealing with it and making these accommodations. I don't see that as a bad thing. But again, if you're not giving them the education follow-up with that, and that's the flaw in the healthcare system, they're not giving them the proper education. They don't know about like low-carb ketogenic nutrition, for example, that could help with a lot of these things. So really a lot of food for thought there, and I did not mean to go that long on this. I had a little more to say, but maybe I'll make another Jimmy Rants out of this other one soon. But weight stigma, it is still here. And we got a lot of work to do to change it, but I think we can with these kinds of actionable steps. And again, thank you to Obesity Action Coalition for pinning this. obesityaction.org, again, is the website. I'm gonna run out of time for comments, so I'm gonna come over here to Instagram first. If we run out of time, we will stick here on Facebook and YouTube, so stick around, don't go anywhere. If I end the show over here, we're gonna come to you, but we're gonna come to Instagram first. JimmyRants.com is the website, so thanks for being here today, you guys. See what you have to say about this one. Jess says it's true. He gets fat shamed several times a day. Yeah, this is my email girl. So thank you, Jess. Yes, she reads all my emails, and you protect me from seeing a lot of that stuff now. I don't think I see it in the email near as much as I used to. But I do. I get quite a bit from people who don't have a clue, as you said. Bonnie says, I know people overweight are turned away, so yes, it's real and very sad. Yeah. Keto Court says, I was overweight, but a great athlete, and I was smart in school, never made fun of, but I had nicknames like the Beast. People seemed to respect me, but saw me as intimidating. It always bothered me really bad. Yeah, I was always considered, I guess, an ogre. Because of that, I remember in middle school, I had a teacher that said, or somebody was picking on me, and he's like, "You're a big boy. You should be able to go beat him up." It's like, okay, I'm bigger. That doesn't mean I'm athletic and can beat someone up. But that was the impression that he had of me. It took me 10 years to get an important diagnosis because they wouldn't do anything till I lost weight. Oh, don't get me started on that. That's true. That happens way too much. MT Plate at 55, I shudder to think how much worse off I'd be had I not controlled my diet, keto and fasting. I'm still not skinny. And that's a lot of us, where we've done all the right things and it still just sticks around, which means it's more than just a calories in, calories out equation. It's more than just the foods you eat. So we need to be mindful of that. Bonnie says, yes, grateful because your encouragement helps us feel like we do belong. It's one reason I wish more people in this space, Bonnie, would be willing to stand up and not have the perfect body. I think I've made that kind of my branding for the past 15 plus years. I'm not pretending like I got all the answers to my own weight issues. I'm still trying to figure those things out. But it doesn't mean in the meantime, you can't do things to improve your health. And this is the thing that a lot of people that make fun of my weight don't ever get is, even though, yes, I still have weight on the body, look how far I came. I mean, I was 410 pounds at one point in my life. I haven't been anywhere close to 400 pounds in over 15 years. That fact has always been lost on people. All right, thank you, Instagram. Let's pop over here to my Facebook page. What's up, you guys? I saw a lot come in over here, so thank you for all your interaction. Let's see what you have to say. Health is more important than the shape of your body, says Paula. Yep. What are your theories as to how someone can have obesity yet have good health markers? Rebecca, great question. I don't know if I have enough time with the time I have left to answer that one. I do think that a lot of it has to do with inflammation that's being kept under control with the weight, and protecting you from the toxins, like I was talking about earlier in the Jimmy Rants, that get bound up in that. And your body, for the life of you, does not want to let go of those toxins. And so if they're bound up in your fat stores, your body's going to do everything it can to not release those fat stores. One of the things that I've found that does release those fat stores is fasting, which we are doing a group fast starting on Monday, a 7-day group fast coming up, you guys. We're going to do it right here on Jimmy Rants. So June the 1st through the 7th, we're going to do that starting next Monday. So stay tuned. But that does help to release those. But yeah, it's tough. You can get your health markers under control pretty darn quick with a low-carb ketogenic approach, but then that weight can just take some time and sometimes never fully comes all the way down. I just had a friend's son committed suicide because of depression. Yeah, sorry to hear that, Tracy. And a lot of people, they do deal with those kinds of things. I always think it's funny that you say you have a Southern accent, but I don't hear it. You sound Midwestern. I've been in the South my whole life, my darling. Tennessee and South Kakalaki. Yeah. There are plenty of people who are not obese and unhealthy. They just hide it better. Yes, Rebecca, you're right. That's true. Rave said, whoa, he wrote me a book. Obesity stigma is other people's problems. I'm just going to leave it at that. By the way, go listen to the Living La Vida Low Carb show today, you guys, llvlc.com. Rave is my guest. Definitely read his comment. It's so much to read, Rave. I can't go into all that, but great comment. Thank you for that. What I hate is people judge me by how I look now. They have no idea how much weight I've lost. They also have no idea how much personal stuff I've overcome. One size does not fit all. Tracy, that is a truism I wish more people got. Your current weight is not an indicator of your success or failure in life. Your current weight is where you are because of all the stuff that you've been through in your life. And those of us that have been through some stuff, I've talked about my childhood trauma and all through my 20s eating junk food like it was going out of style, and the challenges that have come with that. And yeah, how far you've come in your journey, what you used to weigh, what you weigh now, far better, but people see where you are now. Well, you're not perfect. Okay, well, good. I'm perfect for me, and that's all that matters. The looks we get at stores, what's in our carts or at a restaurant, says Polly. Oh, yeah. People do judge you for what's in your cart, especially when you eat keto and you like eat higher fat foods. Oh my gosh, all that butter. I'm like, okay, yeah. Paula says, works opposite as well, applied for a delivery job. My size is smaller now and I'm older. They looked at me, how can we hire her? I let them off the hook, yeah. Kira says, I've showered 3 times a day, always. Wake up, shower, after work, shower, post-workout, shower. Yeah. Yeah. All right, we're running out of time over on Instagram, so I'm going to say goodbye to the official Jimmy Rant show, but I'll be back over here and then come to you guys on YouTube here in a second. But amazing topic today. And I think we need to be having these conversations, guys, and stop pretending like the elephant in the room, this discussion of obesity being a bias that we have in our society. The last socially accepted prejudice in America is making fun of fat people. And I, for one, will no longer stand for it. I, for one, think it's stupid that we keep harping on people about their weight. I don't know about you, but some of my best friends, some of the best people in the world have had issues with their weight. And the smartest people, and the most productive people, and the most creative people, we need to be celebrating that. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, engage live over at Instagram. I'm at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVIN LOWCARBMAN. You can watch it live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, sometimes 5 p.m. Eastern, sometimes the weekend. Also, watch the replay, IGTV, right here on Instagram. We also put them up over on YouTube. Type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants, you'll find the show. Finally, jimmyrants.com is the website. And until next time, you guys, we'll see you then. Oh, I was speaking fast there at the end because I was running out of time. It was like tick-tocking down to like 3, 2, 1, and I was like trying to get it out real fast. All right, let's come back over here, and I have not forgotten about you guys on YouTube, so hang tight. Let me get through the rest of these here on Facebook. My best friend is normal weight, but just felt very ill. I'm healthier than she is and still need to lose 100 pounds thanks to keto. That's true. Sarah says, my son has weight on him. He's on the football team. He was told to pick up the pace on the field in the 9th grade. His coach told him, told another coach on the field that all he chased was cheeseburgers. Oh. See, those kind of snide comments are the kind of thing we're talking about. It's passive-aggressive bias. And I get it every single day. People are like, oh, stop sneaking donuts, and you'll lose weight. And I'm going, okay, yeah. I guess that's just that's the bias we're talking about here today. Sarah said, and the coach said it in front of everyone. Yeah, yes, it's meant to shame your 9th grader. It's unfortunate. Tracy said, when I was in college, I had racquetball as a class. A girl thought she would get an easy A playing against me because I was bigger. Let's just say she was wrong. I waited until she left in a huff before I slid down the wall. That is great. Yes, please keep underestimating us because we're bigger. Judy said there was a girl named Polly in grade school who was relentlessly picked on because of her weight. Oh, how I wish we could go back and love on her. I think of her often with sadness in my heart. Yeah, I had one girl in that class where they threw the chicken at me, where the girly guy, that's literally his last name, was Girly, was allowing all this abuse to happen to me because of my weight. And I had one girl in the class who wrote for the school newspaper. She wrote an article about me without saying my name, about how they should not have been stigmatizing me because of that. So I remember going up to her after class, after the day that came out, and thanking her for that. I remember the teacher, Mr. Gurley, actually made fun of her that day. Oh, somebody doesn't like it that we pick on Jimmy. Oh, yeah, that stuff happens. I was so abused throughout my younger years. I thought a lot about suicide, had to forget what was done to me as I hang out with some of them who don't have a clue what they did to me then. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you have to hold your nose. Kira says, I lost 116 pounds and don't mind the weigh-in at the doctor's office, but it's weird that no one says anything good about my weight loss after they ask how I lost the weight. I say keto. Kira, they don't care. If you said that you cut your calories and you exercise more, oh, see, it works. See, we knew all along it works. And that's kind of like after I lost on the Atkins side 180 pounds, went to the doctor. Oh, wow, you lost a lot of weight. How'd you do it, Atkins? Oh, we're going to have to check your cholesterol. I was like, knock yourself out. Not good job. Not any of the things you would expect, but your cholesterol must be bad. Therefore, your heart health is bad. It's disgusting. Norma says, I disagree with the nurse part. I'm morbidly obese. As a registered nurse, I could work around many nurses. Wish I had known then what I know now. Gave out a lot of bad advice. Yeah, a lot of people did. Donna says, I dropped 140 pounds, still not slim, but I feel great. In our fat shaming culture, people who judge have no idea. No, this is why sometimes I think context matters, and we need to remind people of the context. When people try to say, well, you don't look very thin for being a keto advocate, and I'm like, yeah, I used to weigh 410 pounds. Am I thinner than that now? And of course, they almost always have to say that. The one that gets me the most is, well, you lost weight on keto, but you gained all the weight back and then some. I've literally never come close to being back to 400 plus pounds again. And yet this notion that because I still have weight on the body, I must have gained all the weight back and then some. It's crazy. All right, thank you, Facebook. Let's pop over here to my YouTube channel. What's up, guys? Thanks so much for all your patience. Kim Call says, what an awful teacher to allow that. Oh, yeah, he allowed it all right. She said, I had a hard time in school because of my weight. I think a lot of us did. Harpsy says, lack of nutritional training from all types of professionals. It is glaring built-in bias, causing a lot more harm, and then it's piled on top of the social harm. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know how you make that go away, because culturally that's going to stick around regardless of what we do. Everybody's going to always have their opinions. And again, I think our obsession about weight loss in our culture has poured into this bias even more. Well, if you don't lose weight, you're obviously not exercising hard enough like they did on The Biggest Loser. You're obviously eating a whole bunch of crap, and you need to get off the junk, and you need to cut your fat, blah, 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 blah. It still exists. Christine says, after weight loss, I was smaller than my doctor. She said I looked great, but the high fat was going to hurt my heart. Cholesterol went up. No longer pre-diabetic. My Graves' disease under control. All my pain is gone. I wish they would put the emphasis on a lot of those health markers more than they do. The fact that they continue to harp on this high fat, going to cause you problem, blah, blah, blah. Okay, screw that. What are the actual health markers? What has gotten better? Oh, they're a lot better. I'm out of the cardiovascular disease risk. They don't acknowledge those things. It got to the point with my doctor that he stopped running my fasting insulin. I'm like, you know, I'm trying to keep an eye on that. I'm insulin resistant. I was at the time. And I'm trying to keep an eye on that so I don't become a diabetic. And he's like, well, you don't have type 2 diabetes. I'm like, yeah, I want to keep it that way. I don't want it to like cascade into this problem that I have to deal with down the road. Let's deal with it now. He refused to run it. And I refused to have him as my doctor anymore. I had to fire him. So guys, that's the skinny of this obesity bias problem. It's still there. A1C was great for a solid year. Yeah, you can show them all the health markers in the world, but if you still have extra weight on the body, or you tell them you eat keto, oh my gosh, we gotta get you on a statin drug. And it's like, the bias never ends. And that's a whole nother bias. Even if you don't have obesity, because you eat a ketogenic diet, because you have fat in your diet, they automatically think you're gonna keel over of a heart attack or a stroke or get heart disease. And it's like, why? Again, I know it's the stigma associated with those things, and it's just miseducation. Yeah. All right, guys, let me pop off of here. Thanks for letting me stay a little bit extended version of Jimmy Rants here on Facebook and YouTube. So thanks for hanging out. We'll be back again real soon. Bye. Bye, YouTube.